Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a little bit of a look at the pre-release promos for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in the TCG. They've got to reveal them, ladies and gentlemen, and I, for one, am absolutely delighted. I will tell you that we got a pretty obvious 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but we've actually got two really good pre-release promos here that you should be a little bit excited about. I will say none of them, artwork-wise, are ones I have to have in my collection, but these are still pretty gosh darn cool, ladies and gentlemen. These are pretty gosh darn cool. So, I think we're going to start off nominally at number 4. We've got Pawmot. And I don't hate Pawmot. It's just the worst of them, I believe. What we've got here is a moderately useful ability. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a basic lightning energy and attach it to this Pokemon. And then shuffle your deck. Which is fine. It's a stage 2 that basically gets itself rolling. It's okay. It's actually a card, the only card on this list, that we haven't actually talked about yet. It's a card we haven't yet gotten to in terms of the new cards from Scarlet and Violet. It's fine. It gets energy onto itself, and that's the big problem here. It's only energy onto itself. Now, as for the attack, 2 lightning, 1 colorless, 230, discard all energy from this Pokemon. So the goal here essentially is, sure, you have to discard all your energy in order to attack, that's really sad, etc. However, you're using the ability to get the energy back, so it's good. And the problem is, it's not really that good. Because the problem we've got here is that you're discarding 3 energy and you're accelerating 1 energy. Well, that's not the same, ladies and gentlemen. That's not the same at all. Because you attach 1 from your hand and you accelerate 1 with the ability, and then you've got 2 energy. But we don't need 2 energy, we need 3 energy. And that's my big problem with this card. That and the fact that Pawmot is a stage 2, which is a bit of a pain. Also, kind of annoying to evolve in the game until you've realised how to do it. There were a few that you evolved, I'm not going to tell you if you don't know, but there were a few that you evolved in a specific way. It actually got kind of annoying, and then you figured it out, and you were like, oh, that's actually really cool. And then you realised it was all good. So yeah, it's fine, but I think it's a pretty clear number 4. Decent damage, though, will KO Pokemon Vs and basic Pokemon EXs. Now, in at number 3, we've got QUAQUA, the only one we've got a really clear look at. Remember, this wasn't actually in the Scarlet and Violet set over in Japan. This was in the starter deck. And I told you that I assumed these, I showed you these ones yesterday. I told you that I assumed these first partner Pokemon were going to be featured in the set. Just take it out of the decks in Japan and just put straight into our set. This confirms that that is the case, incidentally. This confirms that that is what's going on here, because the pre-release promos are always alternate art cards from the set. So if QUAQUA has a pre-release promo, then it's in the set. And if QUAQUA's in the set, then it means Skeledirge and Meowscarada are as well. So these cards that were in the starter deck over in Japan, they are going to be in the set. But you'll notice those decks also have EXs in. We know for a fact that Mimikyu is not going to be in the set, because we've already seen Mimikyu's getting its own Mimikyu EX box. And I showed you this the other day, if you look at the number of EXs, 12, that we're told we're getting in Scarlet and Violet, and you look at the number of EXs that are in Scarlet EX and Violet EX in Japan, 12, that tells us pretty conclusively we're not getting these 3 in Scarlet and Violet. Mimikyu's getting its own box. We don't know about the other 2. But this is really good in that it confirms that these 3 first partner Pokemon are coming in the set, like we expected that they would. Now, in terms of playability, this one is... It's one of these ones we've seen a million times. Really good, but it's a stage 2. Because what we've got here is free energy 140 Hydro Kick, nobody cares. But the ability Energy Carnival says, once during your turn, you may attach a basic energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. And there's several good things about this. It is any energy card to any Pokemon. Now, it does have to be from your hands, you have to draw into it, blah, blah, blah. But it's any energy card from any Pokemon, and that's clearly a very, very good thing. Any basic energy. It's just a stage 2. And this is the kind of Pokemon where if you could get 2 or 3 of these out, you could legitimately have the kind of energy acceleration that allows you to just set up any deck whatsoever and be really convinced that it is actually going to work and you're going to be able to get the energy acceleration you need. But it's a stage 2. And I feel this is really confidently number 3 when we're ranking these. Pawmot's number 4 just because it only helps itself. This is number 3 because it's really good, but it's a stage 2. And I do think numbers 1 and 2, you could argue them round whichever way you want. It's so awkward. I really can't decide. I'm putting Revavroom in at number 2. By the time I go to edit this video, I'm going to have changed my mind. Let's be super clear. Numbers 1 and 2 here are very, very close together in my eyes. Now, Revavroom here, what we've got is a really nice, no, that's a lie, a pretty bad attack that does 90 damage and flip a coin if head you do 90 more, 180 total. It's 4 energy on a stage 1. It's just bad, all right? Let's just not talk about it anymore. It's just bad. But the ability is phenomenal. It lets you discard an energy from your hand and draw until you've got 6 cards in hand. It's awesome. Now, as I told you when I showed you this card the other day, the obvious comparison here is to Bibarel. And there's no argument here. This and Bibarel just properly go hand in hand. Bibarel is draw until you've got 5 cards in hand. This is draw until you've got 6 cards in hand if you discard an energy from your hand. And there are massive upsides and massive downsides. Obviously, the downside here is you've got to have the energy in your hand and you've got to be willing to discard it. And that's pretty gosh darn important. And to be clear, you can even see from the English scanner, it says, an energy doesn't have to be basic, special will work. And, you might have an energy in your hand, but you might really need to attach it. Or it might be your last of a particular kind of energy, and even though you don't need to attach it this turn, you cannot afford to discard it. So having it, not needing to attach it, and, not needing to hold it for the future, there are significant downsides. There are times this won't work. But you're drawing an extra card. And let's be clear, drawing an extra card is amazing. I mean, as it stands at the moment, Shaughnessy's no real play. But if Cynthia came back, Cynthia would see a huge amount of play it did at the time. Because a shuffle draw 6 is way better than a shuffle draw 5. Drawing till 6 is way better than drawing till 5. It just is. How many times have you drawn a bunch of cards and the last one was the one you needed? Or you didn't draw the one you needed, but you peeked at the top card when you lost the game, and would you believe it, the top card of your deck is the one that would have then won the game for you? Happens a lot. And it's not just drawing till 6. Because remember, when you're doing this, you are discarding an energy from your hand. And that's really, really, really important. Because it means that you've got 1 fewer card in hand, which means you're drawing 1 extra card. It is a phenomenal ability, but it's not always going to work. If you use this, you have to accept the fact that there are going to be games where you fail, where you don't get this ability off, and that is going to hurt quite a bit. Also, do remember, this will rotate out 1 year later than we see with Bibarel. So there is that to consider as well. And that means number 1 is Hawlucha, but let's be clear, number 1 could easily have been Revavroom. I've got a little Hawlucha model on my desk when I'm editing, and I've used Hawlucha cards a lot in decks in the past. I've got a lot of love for Hawlucha. Maybe I'm being a little bit biased. One thing that's really cool about this card, it was initially revealed as a tournament promo in Japan, holo and stamped and all of that. Turns out it's actually just in the set proper. It's just in the set normally, and then we're getting it as a pre-release promo as well. Worth noting that Japan is not getting the pre-release promo artwork yet. They may in the future. It's a kind of wait-and-see situation. But either way, we like Hawlucha. Hawlucha is good, and it's not for the attack free energy 70. That is flat garbage. But it is for the ability that when you play it from your hand onto your bench, you can choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon and drop 1 damage counter onto each of them. And just like Revavroom had a very obvious comparison, so does this. This is the new version of Galarian Zigzagoon. With the massive difference, Galarian Zigzagoon is rotating as this comes out. In both Japan and over here, as Scarlet and Violet is legal, Sword and Shield goes away, the base set. So it's not the same. And there's big advantages and big disadvantages. Because obviously with Galarian Zigzagoon, you can drop a damage counter on the active, which you can't do with Hawlucha. But with Hawlucha, you drop 2 damage counters rather than 1, and that's a pretty big deal. The other really big deal here is that we are seeing the rotation of Scoop Up Net, which of course allows you to pick this up and reuse it, and that is a really, really big deal. Scoop Up Net's one of those cards. I wouldn't be surprised if we never saw Scoop Up Net again. Scoop Up Net seems like it was a mistake. I mean, obviously, when it got Shaman banned and expanded, I still contend the problem wasn't Shaman, it was Scoop Up Net. But it's another one of those cards where, you know, with this, it will be a bit good. I do think it's incredibly interesting that we're seeing this ability coming back, hitting the bench. Because, you know what? With Galarian Zigzagoon, there was always a possibility of using it 3 or 4 times, maybe more, turn 1, and actually donking, you know, KOing your opponent's only Pokemon before they've even drawn a card. That was always a possibility with this, you know, going first and getting a KO, even though you're not able to attack. I don't think it's a coincidence they've made Hawlucha in such a way that it won't do that. Either way, I like this. It's a really, really good card. It's going to see a bunch of play. It's going to be seen in a bunch of decks. It's really, really... It's so slight, the difference between this and Revavroom in terms of which is going to be better. And I'm sure we're going to be able to look in 6 months' time and it's going to be super obvious which one is better. Right now, it is not obvious which one is better. But I'll tell you something for nothing, there are 2 very, very good cards that are coming as pre-release promos, and 2 that are kind of cool. None of these are terrible, but I think there are 2 that are well above the others. I like these, but I want to know what you think, and I want to know your ranking, so go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @LeWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel. You can get some bonus podcasts, answer all of your questions. You can join a Discord where we chat about Pokemon and a bunch of other fun things. And you can get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Uber MX, who's been a long-time supporter of ours and is a very lovely person. So thank you very much to them for the support and for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.